Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. It is now Tuesday, the 6th of August already. Wow. 6th of August, 2024, back home from family vacation, ready to tackle part 2 of what is happening with Debby making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane in the Big Bend area. We already know all of that. Now we got to start watching for the big flood problem that is ongoing now, and that's going to continue over the next several days across parts of the Carolinas, and that's going to really be a serious issue. We're going to focus on that and the big new update from Colorado State University, sticking to what Dr. Klotzbach and his team of experts have been saying for the last few months. A very busy hurricane season is in store. We're already seeing that now with Debby, our second hurricane landfall of the season. So let's get started, and hopefully I can get through this. I'm kind of groggy. The red-eye flight from Seattle, not fun, but the family vacation, though, very much worth it. So let's get back to it, see what we've got. So similar to sports, and just bear with me for a moment, when coaches make changes throughout whatever game we're talking about, and it doesn't matter, it could be any kind of an athletic event where there is strategy involved and different parameters that change, and then the players on the field change and the different game strategies change. The same thing with weather forecasting. If you're looking at a certain set of atmospheric conditions and oceanic conditions, and they either change or they stay the same or they get more favorable or less favorable, you adjust your forecast accordingly. Now certainly you can come out and plant a flag, so to speak, at a certain date of the year and make one forecast and hope that you are correct. But how does that serve people? Updating the forecast as things go along. We do it every day. We see it in our apps. We see it on Fox Weather, for example. All of that numerical weather prediction changes all the time because the weather is always changing. But one thing about this year we have seen in the last several months, going all the way back to the late winter and the early part of the spring, and now deep into the summer, is that the setup for the 2024 hurricane season has stayed primarily pretty stable. Very favorable, with a warm Atlantic relative to average, record warm in many cases, and the absence of El Nino, and I cannot emphasize that part enough. Not having the El Nino is a huge part of this, and the fact that we're dipping closer and closer to La Nina thresholds in the equatorial Pacific leads people to, like Dr. Klotzbach here and his team, and others that are constantly updating stuff, to believe that we're going to still have a very, very busy peak time of the hurricane season. And we're already well ahead of where we should be on ACE, that's the accumulated cyclone energy, the numeric output kind of showing you the quality of a hurricane season, and the numbers of named storms and hurricanes. I think it's not until August 26th or something like that that we are normally supposed to get our second hurricane. So we're already ahead of schedule, and the forecast is still calling for a very busy season overall, or extremely active, as Dr. Klotzbach puts it right here, predicts an extremely active season. And we're still looking at a total of 23 named storms, 12 hurricanes, 6 major hurricanes, and we've had one of those so far, right, with Beryl. So we should have 5 more major hurricanes. And this is really important. The accumulated cyclone energy west of 60 is 140 points. And again, to put that into sports perspective, because I want people to understand and relate to what I'm saying. Because you might be like, what is ACE? What is he talking about? Why is that important? That ACE score west of 60 degrees longitude, that is where a majority of the land masses are that most of us care about. Right? You understand? So the sports analogy is that's like saying, and I'm just going to pick a player, LeBron James in the NBA, that the experts are thinking he's going to go off tonight and he's going to score, 40 or 50 points maybe in the paint or something. Like, wow, that really sticks out. Or a certain quarterback for a certain NFL team, whatever the case may be, they're going to be on fire tonight and they're going to do some significant damage, so to speak, to the opponent. Same thing here. We're looking at 140 ACE points west of 60 degrees longitude. Already we've had many of those ACE points, well, not many, but we've already chiseled away at that number. That's the total number just from Beryl. So this update is important. I know people like to try to second guess And that's just, I guess, how we approach science these days. It's always good to question, but to just completely dismiss stuff as hogwash, well, that's not helpful. And so explaining that, yes, this does get refined as we move along is important. Because of course we do. We do that with everything. We do it with medicine. We do it, that's why they say, you practice medicine. It's never perfect. And we even do it with geology and astronomy and other stuff like that. And the same thing holds true with meteorology. All right? So we're still looking at a very busy season ahead. And even the long-term, I say long-term, more than just a few days out, the outlook here going through almost to the end of August shows a pretty active time of it coming up. This post here from Alan Snyder, another very astute person watching the tropics, which is important, trying to point out the different people that follow and post relevant and helpful, non-sensational info. It's just matter of fact. The Climate Prediction Center Global Tropics Hazards Outlook here. What color should I use to highlight all this? I guess we can use that purple there. The first chunk of time here going out through August 20th. Ding, ding, that's the date that the bell normally rings, the start of the Cape Verde season, so to speak. Of course, we've already started that, it seems, to some extent. But usually August 20th is the traditional start to the meat of the hurricane season. And then the last part of August there, at least getting to the last part, the 21st to the 27th, pretty much the entire Atlantic basin open for business. And the reason that this is indicated here is because of the overall favorable background signal that we are seeing. And Dr. Klotzbach mentions all of that if we go back up in the thread here that he has created. I guess I got to go back there, don't I? Yes, I do. There's the donut, by the way, that Dr. Gray would sort of have or consume to celebrate scientifically. We don't celebrate hurricanes. You know where I'm coming from on this. That August 20th typically is the opening day for all of that. But here are all the reasons that we think this is going to continue to be a very active season. You know what I'm going to tell you? The warm anomalies, there they are. This is the correlation. It's almost as close as you can get to perfect, right? And then the other factors involved, the analog years. There's some big ones in here. Recognize any of them? 1886, ship reports. Yep. 1926, still ship reports. And some land observations by then, of course. 1933, we got even better at it. And then finally by the 90s, and certainly these last several seasons here, 05, 2010, and 2020, some heavy hitters in there that produced some big-time numbers. And you can go back and you can look and see how that matches up to what we are seeing this year. And we call those analog years. It's like identifying and profiling, right? Like we do with forensics and FBI profiling for serial killers or whatever. That's how science works. You can look back and you can find clues that help you understand what might happen in the future, and it's all leading to, again, this post here, which is the next few weeks, and it looks like it's going to start to get really, really busy, even from where we are now. All right, so that, my friends, is the setup. All right, that's the setup. That's where we have come from and where we are now. So in the East Pac, yesterday, this was very busy. I think there was 4 out there all at once, if I'm not mistaken. We had very short-lived Hurricane Carlotta, I think was the name. And while I was on the family vacation, we rattled off a few more. But notice, they're all dying away fairly quickly, the East Pac activity, for one. 2, they're not going up towards Mexico, which is great news for those folks, especially in Acapulco and anywhere along the Mexican coastline. Honestly, you don't need hurricanes. The moisture sometimes is good, but even that can be overwhelming from time to time. But also the other part is none of these have reached major hurricane status, right? So we're lacking in that department. And once this completely shuts down, the East Pac, the Atlantic Basin is going to take over. And I'm telling you, get a watch, set your Apple Watch, whatever, your Apple Calendar, whatever the case may be, your clock, I don't care, whatever it is, and say around August 20th through the last third of the month, watch how quickly the Atlantic just switches on. And again, we've already had Debby out there. We've got an area of interest in the Atlantic now that might try to do something as it gets over towards the Western Caribbean, as you can see there through the Bay of Campeche. But it is this area, out across the entire rest of the tropical Atlantic, that looks like it's going to light up as we move through the coming weeks towards that climatological uphill part of the roller coaster, the you ever do those roller coasters and you know it's going to be something else because you're going up and up and up, and then you reach that peak and it's one heck of a ride down. And in this case, that peak coming around September 10th, climatologically, as I'm trying to draw it out over here, you know the graphic, you've seen it. That is where we are normally headed. And then on top of that, this exceptionally favorable background state that we have in 2024, superimposed on top of that, that's what's going to more than likely give us a lot of problems. And I say more than likely because, no, we don't know for sure. Even LeBron James could have a bad night, even though he is expected to have a good night. And the greatest tennis player in the world, the greatest golfer, you know how it works. Sports and weather are more related than you think, all right? So here's what we got. So Debby made landfall down in the Steinhatchee area between Cedar Key and Keaton Beach, roughly. We had a camera system out there for Idalia last year. Caught some extraordinary images, and just to remind you, though, this was from Debby. I think this is the 6th or 7th time that we've had something out here in Cedar Key for a hurricane or a tropical storm. Just a real quick shot of the highlights there. Really appreciate my colleague, a good friend of the project, an all-around nice guy, a geographer just like me. He comes to the United States from Brazil to study hurricanes and other weather phenomenon. Marcel helped out to set this camera up. They didn't have a significant storm surge, thank goodness. It wasn't a record or anything. But Cedar Key, once again, having to deal with that. It's just the way it goes. It's hurricane season. It just seems to be happening more often than not down there. I mean, look, literally, like I said, it's definitely the 6th time, might have even been the 7th, since 2016. So in 8 years, we've had a camera there at least a half a dozen times. And before that, it was all the way back to the year 2000, and really didn't have anything to speak of for almost 16 years. Isn't that unbelievable? And then all of a sudden, we've had this big ramp up in activity these last several years where things have really cranked up again. So anyway, what do we got? What's happening? Well, the center, you can clearly see it down here, of our tropical storm. You know what? Yeah, it's still a tropical storm. I was looking at, is it a depression yet? It matters, but it doesn't matter. Remember, those are just labels, right? But it's not, the big thing here is it does not have a well-defined inner core. The deep convection around the center has all but collapsed, and even when it moves out over the warm waters of the western Atlantic there, off of the low country of South Carolina, that will help it to redevelop some deep convection, and that'll re-energize it a little bit. But we're missing the deep thunderstorms around the center. But here's where it starts to get very important, and I want to talk to you from years of experience doing this. You look at this and you think, it's just a tropical storm. What's the big deal? You live along the coast, maybe you're new or whatever. Again, I understand that. We look at everything in terms of these threat scales, and the bigger numbers mean more problems, whatever. You need to look at this as a major water-producing machine. These feeder bands that you can clearly see that are working their way onshore, they are dumping copious amounts of rainfall. We saw that in Harvey in 2017 around southeast Texas. These bands were coming in when Harvey looked a lot like that. The deep convection had waned away after landfall down there near Rockport. Then Harvey made its way up into the southeast Texas coastal area near Houston and vicinity. And you remember what happened. It dumped, almost 5 feet, some cases 5+ feet of rain. Now, the remnants of Debby here are not going to do that, hopefully, but it is going to produce a tremendous amount of rain, 10 to 15, maybe 20 inches plus around this region. Enough to create flooding that's already happening, and we're seeing traffic accidents. My Twitter feed is just loaded with that, along I-95 and even our secondary U.S. highways. And the next part of this is we're going to get a lot of river flooding. And that's what I want to address more as we go forward. And another way to look at this, there's the tropical storm symbol on top of it. But that vorticity area, that big piece of energy sitting out there, that is problematic because all of that energy, I'm just going to fill it in with purple here. This is all that vorticity, all that energy, and that represents rain. I mean, to me it does. That's what I look at it as. So don't worry about, it's not a hurricane, so who cares? When you've got 5, 10, 20 inches of water in your house, in your business, Downtown Charleston, they've been dealing with that. They deal with it a lot. That's who cares. That's when it really does matter. And it's that freshwater flooding. So we're not going to have the wind, and we're not going to have much surge. We will have some. But this is a water from the sky problem. All right? A big rainfall problem over a big area. And a big factor in all of this is the warm waters around the region, 28, 29, 30 Celsius, so mid to upper 80s. Plenty of available latent heat out there to feed our system to keep that rain engine going. So again, forget the whole, is it a Category 1 hurricane or any of that? It is a big, big efficient rain producer, and it is going to continue to be. Wanted to point out, too, I think this is really, really fascinating. Do you remember the other day, if you've been watching my videos the last week or so, and yes, I still produced them. I don't want to brag and sound whatever, but look, even on vacation, I still knocked out videos every single day, and a big thank you to my wife and kids for allowing me to do that. The work must go on even from the cruise ship or what have you, but I showed you, remember that 31 Celsius isotherm covered like this entire area, and I was all excited about it, so to speak, and it is. It's an amazing thing. And again, excitement doesn't necessarily mean good. It gets you worked up. You see something like that, and it is remarkable. Most of that is gone. Debby came in, and just like if you had a hot cup of coffee, and you could blow across the top of it for long enough, you'll cool it off. And you do that, and you take sips, and you don't burn the heck out of your lips or the upper part of your mouth, right? Your soft palate. Same thing with the ocean. You disturb it enough, and it will get mixed up. And so that's what happened. We have erased much of that 31 Celsius, but as if to just troll us, the central Gulf Coast up here in and around Louisiana, and I'm going to say it again, I'm going to start the cycle over. I don't remember, and I'll have to go back and see, maybe there's Cornelius can come up with something. He's one of our back end, we'll call him our engineer, because he does engineer some good stuff. Looked at the transcripts of all my videos. I'm just kidding, Mike. Please don't do it. Don't tempt the man. He will do it. But I can't remember if I've ever seen 32 Celsius surrounding that much of an area of the central Gulf Coast. Maybe I have, and I don't remember, but that is a lot of surface water that is getting darn close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And we are getting in, and I got to bring this up. We have to just face this. We are just now starting that roller coaster ride up the ramp. And so this is all going to matter. It really is. And then we're going to rebuild the water temperatures over here in a pretty short time span, because it is only the first part of August. So don't let your guard down. We can still get more activity in Florida, believe you me. So this is very important here as we close this out. As you get to the closing part anyway, the last third of today's update. The Weather Service, in fact, let me just go back to show you where I got all this from. Let me see, maybe I have to go over to the, let's see, I don't want to mess this up. Why is it messing with me here? Oh, I see, it's trying to go back through everything I clicked on earlier. Well, we'll just do it. We'll just figure it out. There it is. So go to weather.gov. We're almost there. We'll go to weather.gov, and then I want you to click on Rivers, Lakes, and Rainfall. So let's get that again. Weather.gov, Rivers, Lakes, and Rainfall, and then you get where I just was. So let's do it. There we go. Rivers, lakes, and rainfall. You get the national outlook of everything. Look at all these gauges. I tell you, we're very lucky in that regard. And then what stands out? This area right down here. That is the influence from Debby. Down in Florida, we do have several rivers in major flood stage. That's what these purples are. And you can click on all of this. It's interactive. The Weather Service and the Southeast River Forecast Center and the various regional offices have come a long way with making this easily accessible for people just like you and me. And you can click on these and you get your forecast, your observed, all kinds of just amazing data. So that's Florida. That's what's happening because of Debby in the past. And then this is what we're getting up here in my neck of the woods. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina, for the future. I mean, it's certainly raining on these areas now, but these are your river forecast areas that are going to go into major flood stage down the road. Let's click on some of these. This is the Black River near Tomahawk, North Carolina. It's going to get close to the record, only about 4 feet shy of the record. When? Around August 9th or 10th or so. The Northeast Cape Fear River near Burgaw. You guys know this tune. We've been through it a lot of times these last several years. It's going to go into major flood stage. When? Sometime on Friday. So this is very important stuff because there's communities up through here that are going to have to deal with flooding again. So again, you go to weather.gov, you click on rivers and whatever the forecast was, lakes and rivers, and it'll show you what I just showed you. It's funny how it does that. It's literally backing me out all the pages that I was at. Rivers, lakes, rainfall. Bookmark that and get to know it. It's good for the entire country, even Alaska and Hawaii. And I bring this up too because this is Florence from 2018 up near Riegelwood, only about 45-50 minutes from my house. And that's what a whole bunch of rain will do. Just a big overland surge of water that takes several days to work its way out of the streams, creeks, and rivers. This is the drone shot. By the way, this is an old Phantom 2. Now we have the nice DJI Air 3 or whatever the heck they are. They're tiny, but my goodness, are they stable. This is 6 years ago now, right? So the old Phantom 2 used to get these shots. But the river flooding is going to be a serious issue. We could be looking at something similar to this again over the coming days where communities are going to be isolated, cut off, they're going to be flooded. And you know, we got that Quick Dams partnership. You can get them. It's not too late. Go to Lowe's or Home Depot. Go to Amazon. I'll put a link to Quick Dams. Tomorrow I'm going to be having an interview with one of the folks from Quick Dam to talk about it very candidly, how flooding affects people, how their products work, because in addition to certainly trying to help the business grow, Quick Dam, and them being a partner of ours here at HurricaneTrack, we also want to help you with literally a better mousetrap, and they have built a better mousetrap. You know that analogy. There's Brent there setting the camera up along the New River in 2018 for the big flood that was going to happen up there. But that's what all this flood mitigation stuff can help you with. So look for that interview tomorrow. It's going to be a Zoom recording that I'm going to do with Marilyn from Quick Dam as we take a look at another big flood event potentially for parts of the Carolinas. This is what it looked like back in 2018. Florence, North Carolina's costliest hurricane because of freshwater flooding mainly. Floyd, 1999. Matthew, 2016. The 2015 fire hose event. I think that's a Brad Panovich from WCNC. Weather Brad, I think that's his term. But that's what it all looked like. This is what we want to make sure you are ready for. What does it look like going forward? Well, at least for now, the operationals, as we call them, are not lighting up too much, but that's going to change. I'll take you out to the next 10 days here on the Euro. Some activity coming up there. This gets us out to August 16th. Maybe one little system to watch here. South and west of Bermuda, a very active tropical wave train probably coming. And then a few days later, that's August 20th, and we ring the bell, as Dr. William Gray used to say, and we start to usher in the most active part of any hurricane season, even the ones with El Niños. If you're going to have an active period, it's usually after August 20th, and that's exactly what happened last year. Things really lit up post-August 20th, and this year I think it'll do so even more, and I've already outlined the reasons why I think so. All right, let's get this done, processed, and online for you as always. Thank you for tuning in. From all of us at the HurricaneTrack family, we appreciate you watching. You help us grow by doing so. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel, bookmark it, and what do they say? Like and share, all that good stuff. And do hit that notification bell, or whatever it is these days, because when we post a new video, you'll get notified, and especially when we are live. And I should be out and about, by the way, over the next few days, as these forecasts come into better focus, and we'll put some more of those cameras out to monitor these flooding rivers. I'll talk about that more on tomorrow's update. All right? Again, that's it from me. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you again tomorrow.